Welcome to Concept to Creation, a podcast featuring entrepreneurs who share their business journey. We'll hear what motivated them to turn their dreams into a business. They'll share stories from the trenches of business, from raising capital, creating products or services, navigating regulations, hiring employees, and managing competition and growth. We'll discover their successes and failures, and they'll provide advice for budding entrepreneurs. Now, here's your host and fellow entrepreneur, Mike Conrad.
Welcome to episode number 2 of the Concept to Creation podcast. We've doubled our episodes. Today is a very unique interview, or I should say an interview with two very unique people. What they do is not so unique. They operate a contract manufacturing company for the electronic assembly industry. What is perhaps a little bit more unique is the fact that they are a husband and wife team. They started the business, got married, all in the same year. So we're going to ask some pretty good questions about that. But let me introduce my guests today, Allison and Chad Budvarson. Welcome to Concept to Creation. I appreciate you being my guest today. And I also appreciate the sometimes difficulty in talking about your own business. I think we as business owners love to talk about our own business, probably ad nauseum with our friends, right? They've heard all the stories, all that, but sometimes it's hard to talk about the struggles that a business has. It's easier to talk about the successes, but no success comes without struggle, and no success comes without failure. And we don't want to just highlight failures, but my experience, at least, is that failure almost has a silver lining. There's usually some takeaway from that. And I know if I were to hire somebody, which I've done many times, as you guys have, I love to ask what their failures were. To me, that's even more interesting than their successes, because if you just have nothing but successes, they don't know what failure is like. We just don't know if they're on a lucky streak or if it's a skill-derived result. So we'll kind of dive into that. So why don't one of you tell my audience a little bit more about out-of-the-box manufacturing, your contract assembly place. I've read a lot of material about out-of-the-box. I understand from what I read, it's quite a unique company. You do things a little bit differently than perhaps other contract manufacturers and other companies in general. So tell us a little bit about out-of-the-box manufacturing.
Go ahead, Allison.
Okay, thanks, Chad. So Out-of-the-Box Manufacturing is a contract manufacturer of electronic assemblies. We are located in Renton, Washington. We started our business in 2008. As Mike alluded to, we got married in August of 2008 and filed for our business license in September of 2008. So it was an interesting year for sure. Chad and I actually met at work. I was in production and he was engineering at a company that does something very similar to what we do now. The difference about out-of-the-box manufacturing, I think, is our product mix. We really try to support equally small to medium volume manufacturing as well as quick turns and prototypes. So the idea that we can do a same-day consigned turn on an MPI is really neat. We also have, we can do those same day turns with certs as well. So we are AS9100 registered. We have ITAR registration, ISO 13485. So really quite difficult assemblies that we can turn pretty quickly.
Excellent. Chad, anything to add to that?
Yeah, so like you said, we got married, right? We eloped, we went to Hawaii, we got off the plane when we got home, we filed for a business license. So it was literally that fast.
Now, normally the order, I shouldn't say this because I don't want to jinx you, but you've been in this long enough, I'm not going to jinx you. You took things quite out of order. Normally the order is you start a business and then you file for divorce. My wife and I worked together. When I started this business, I started my business out of my garage, and then my wife basically said, find another wife or find a building, because we couldn't get the cars in the garage, and UPS was constantly coming and going, and that type of scenario. And then eventually she quit her job and started working with me. And we worked side by side for a while. And depending upon who tells the story, she either stormed out and quit or I fired her in a rage. Probably a little bit of accuracy in both. But we're just coming up on our 40th anniversary. So clearly we're doing something right. And one of the things, thank you, one of the things we did right was deciding not to work together. But I think it takes, very special relationship to be able to navigate that. So whose idea was it to jump out of the world of a dependable paycheck and into the world of uncertainty and risk that entrepreneurship just brings with it?
Well, it started in our garage originally, and it was more of at that point. So I was just kind of doing things on the side, on weekends, stuff like that. It was, what was that? That was 2008. I think 2009, we kept on going. About 2010, we really didn't do any business. We're thinking about just, closing the business license out, all that kind of stuff. 2011, I think, when it really started to pick back up again. At that point, we had a pick and place machine in our garage. We had an oven in our garage. We had a screen printer in our garage. We had, 3 people coming in on weekends and nights and stuff like that. And we just had our baby. And Allison, similar story to you. This is not okay. Coming in and using the bathroom in my living room. Either get out of the garage or quit this crap. So, well,
it's very similar. I've heard that before. I've played that record before. So, and it's good advice, right? Because it kicked you out of kind of a comfort zone and put you out into the real world. Every business has to go through that. So, and
even at that time, I still kept my day job. Even when we moved into the first facility, we hired our first employees. I still kept my day job to basically fund the company, right? I had to have that income in order to fund the company. So it wasn't for 2013, 2012, somewhere in there, I actually quit my day job and took the plunge into full time onto this.
Yeah. My wife was the backup financing. She did the same thing. She kept working, and at least we could cover our mortgage and our health insurance. And I could take that money and blow it on a business, at least for the first few years. Have either of you had these entrepreneurial desires before this, or was this just an opportunity that threw itself in front of you that you took?
Me personally, I think it was just an opportunity that showed up. I had customers and people that wanted me to build stuff, and I liked building it. And the industry that I moved away from, because I was in contract manufacturing since I was about 17. But when I moved over here and I left a contract manufacturer, I actually was doing in-flight entertainment for corporate aircraft, which was super fun. You fly down to Texas and stuff, and you crawl around in these super nice jets for elite people in the world, the king of Kazakhstan or, whatever it is. They're just really cool planes. So to leave that job was kind of difficult as well.
Come on, Chad, you own your own business. You have a plane too, right? That's what my friends all think.
Yeah.
Right.
Paper plane.
Yeah. origami airlines, right? Exactly. Allison, did you have the desire to work for yourself to be an entrepreneur, or was this also just one of those happenstance, pinball machine moves that life brings you?
Yeah, I think Out of the Box was definitely Chad's baby in the beginning. He had the talent and the skills to really get it off the ground from an engineering perspective, and it was something that just sort of happened. I think the conversation went something like this. Well, if we think we can do it so much better, then why don't we give it a try? And we just found ourselves doing it. And similarly, Chad and I, we both worked our separate jobs during the first few years of Out of the Box manufacturing. So there was a lot of double duty there for quite a while.
Chief cook and bottle washer and everything else, right? That's the way it is. What you said, you one of you, or maybe both of you, I don't remember, said that you were in this industry before. Allison, I think you said that you were in this industry before. Were there any issues saying goodbye? Goodbye, former employer, meet your new competitor. Were there any awkward moments or legal things that went on?
That happened a little later. It wasn't initial. We didn't leave our previous jobs going, oh hey, we're gonna go around the corner and start our own business. There was a period of time in between there. Chad said he worked for a company that did corporate aircraft, and I actually switched gears and went back to school and took an HR job for another a wire and cable harness manufacturer. So we both had a little bit of a break in between there before Out of the Box really started to get going.
Mm-hmm. Where'd you come up with the name Out of the Box?
Got to think out of the box, man.
Yeah,
just like
we
it sounds.
were just standing around a table one day and throwing ideas out, and that one just came out.
Well, I like it. It suits the way you run a business from everything I've read. So you decided to leave, the so-called security of a regular job, a 9-to-5 paycheck, W-2, for the unknown world of entrepreneurship. And you decided to enter an industry that is quite capital intensive. These machines that you all had to buy or lease or borrow or steal or, whatever, are not cheap. There's
No stealing.
Well, don't steal it. Yeah, no stealing. Chad's on record. Nothing was stolen. They have the pink slip on everything. But you did enter it into you didn't open a flower store or an art shop or something or a coffee store, which are expensive enough. You opened a business that requires a significant amount of real estate, square footage, and office space, and really uber expensive equipment. So how did you swing that? Was there financing involved? Did you run up all your credit cards and drain your bank accounts? And did your friends stop returning your calls because they knew what you were asking? What was the pathway to funding this endeavor?
Well, that's why I kept my day job for so long. My day job kind of funded the business, if you will. And what I did is I went out to some of the. I've been in this industry for a long time, since I was 17. Was that 20? I don't know. It's been a long time. So I was first at Vision Tech for 8 years, and I learned the machines from the bottom up. I went to Keytronics, and then I went to whereas Mexico and China, and learned machines there. So what I did is I went out and found really old, beat up machines that really weren't functional and were cheap, and I repaired them, fixed them, made them work for us.
That is a huge advantage, to know your equipment, to know how to work on your equipment, to know how to evaluate used machines and know if they're any good or if they're completely worn out. That's something of a gift. And to have that at the beginning of your business journey, as opposed to in the middle to the end of your business journey, like most people finally figured out, is probably one of the key advantages that you had. So tell me about the startup experience. So you get married, you come back, you start a business, and how did you find that first year, not of marriage, but of the business? How did you find that first year to be? Was it difficult? Did difficulties occur at all? Was it a magic carpet ride? Tell me about the first year or two in starting this business, about how you found customers. I assume people knew who you were already, but how you acquired customers and how you assured them that you're going to be around to support what you've done, and what some of the challenges were.
So I think I got to break it into like two sections, because 2008 is when we started the business. And at that time, basically, I was only box builds. I just left an OEM. Some of those customers were very happy. I entered the aviation market, so I was completely out of the contract manufacturing world. So I was just doing box build. And that's right at the peak of 2008, the peak of the market. So
that's another thing too. You not only got married and started a business, you did it in the middle of the greatest recession, the greatest economic collapse since the Depression, which yes. I failed to mention at first. So I think I was so overwhelmed by the fact that you were married and started a business on the same year, I totally forgot about the recession. That's yes. another factor.
It is. So we did okay with the box build stuff. That was kind of fun, and I did that primarily by myself. And like I said, there was about a year hiatus there. We basically didn't do any business. We were thinking about shutting it down. And we had some other customers come to us and say, "Hey, can you build circuit boards?" So that's when it got serious. That's when I put the pick and place machine in my garage at my house. I wired in an oven. I got a screen printer, a little manual screen printer. I've got soldering irons, ESD mats, all that kind of stuff, and geared my garage up. So at that point, it kind of got a little bit more. And
I
that was,
want to add too, I think part of our success, especially early on, really comes from the team that we were able to rely on, folks that we knew and grew up with in the industry, that we knew we could trust and would be willing to work as hard as we were to get this thing off the ground. And those folks are still with us. And I would say without them and all of us being really committed to this vision, it may not have worked out the same way.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. One of my favorite business books is by Jim Collins, and the book is called Good to Great. And he studied pairs of publicly traded companies, publicly traded so he can get access to their finances. And he discovered that, it would be like two contract manufacturers, for example, that both serve the same market. One does very, very well, one struggles. And he looked at pairs of companies in various industries and determined which companies were successful and which companies were not successful in the same market, and boiled it down to the common denominators on each side. And he had 10 or 12 attributes of companies who were successful and companies who were not successful. And two of the ones that I can remember that are really good takeaways on the successful ones are only do something if you can be the best at it, right? Don't just be an also-ran. So you have to do something, and you have to be able to convince your customers that you can do it better than anybody. And second, have the right people on the bus, to your point, Allison, have the right people on the bus, as he calls it. And I know I could not, in the early days, we were the people on the bus, right? You were the people on the bus. It was the two of you. And then, the disadvantage in you guys starting a business before kids is that you don't get that instant indentured servitude with your children, right? You can't just put your children to work. I had my daughter come to work. At first, it was more daycare, and then she'd get summer jobs, and she'd bring her friends from school to stuff. Back in the days when we mailed envelopes to people, right? Now it's all internet, but she'd stuff envelopes and collate brochures and things like that, and then sweep the floor. And so we got that free labor, very cheap labor. But I think having the right people with you really sets the tone. And I know certainly the opposite is true, because that's happened to us. It used to be the only requirement for us was a pulse and a willingness to accept an offer. Oh, you'll take this? You're hired. But then you learn. So how do you attract good talent when you're a startup? Because I enjoy working with startups. I entered this industry in 1985 working for a startup, an equipment manufacturer in this industry. And a lot of people think, they'd rather have the corporate job because it's safer. And I think, corporate jobs, when they fire you, because business is bad, it comes as a surprise. On a startup, you can smell what's cooking in the kitchen, right? You can't hide it, right? The curtain's not thick enough to hide behind. And everyone kind of knows, for better or for worse, everyone knows what's going on. But sometimes if you have the right people, it makes them feel part of the adventure, right? They maybe work a little harder because they can see the struggle is real. Was that your experience? Or let me rephrase that. Was it difficult to attract talent to a small, quite literally mom and pop business? Or was that an attribute? Was that what attracted people?
I think that, there may be a little bit of both to that. For the technical positions, it has been extremely difficult over the years to attract talent, just because there's not that many people where we operate that know what we do and how to do it. So, wanting to be good corporate citizens, we weren't in the market to steal people from other organizations. And we put a lot of effort, especially in the last 3 or 4 years, to develop pipelines of talent with local schools to make sure that we're really setting ourselves up with talented individuals. A point of pride that we have, Chad mentioned earlier, that machine that he picked up that wasn't functional, that was our first pick and place machine. We actually donated that to a local technical school in the last couple of years, so that students could learn how to design and manufacture circuit boards as part of their education. So that's given us a place that we know we can go to find talented individuals. Secondly, though, I think that I learned quite a while ago that recruiting people to join a small company, you really have to do a lot of vetting early on in that recruiting process. And I started asking people if they'd ever worked for a small company before, and if they'd, if they were comfortable doing things outside of their job description. And I almost wanted to scare people away a little bit at first. And I'd say, well, I do my own filing and I take out my own garbage. And not that I'm saying that you have to do that every day, but if I'm willing to do that, I'm looking for other people that are willing to have that same commitment to the greater good. So if that is not you, that is okay. But that's the type of person we're looking for.
I muted myself, sorry. Excellent. I think hiring people is one challenge. Sustaining them, keeping them, getting out of their way so they can grow is another gift. It's another talent that some people have and some don't. Sounds like you have that. Tell me about growth. My experience is growth is a dangerous seduction. And, everyone tells you that if you have a business, the number one thing is growth. You have to grow, and which is true. Obviously, you can't put pick and place machines in your garage for 10 years and call it a business, a successful business. But the idea of growth is expensive. Growth costs money, and in your business especially, I guess you can scale up if you have one surface mount line. You can grow to the capacity of that line. If you get one extra customer, quite literally, you have to put another, at some point you have to decide to put another line in, but you may not have enough business to keep that line busy, 40 hours a week or however many hours. So, and growth usually comes at the expense of cash flow. Personally, I think the three most important rules of business are cash flow, and cash flow, right? At first, at least with my business, when we were a very young business, it was really not about profit. I had no idea if we were making money. I wasn't savvy enough at that point to really read a balance sheet and an income statement and a cash flow projection. I was just looking to see if we can cover payroll next week. And, if we made money, we made money. So how do you manage the polar opposite factors of growth and cash flow? Because one sucks up the other. So tell me about that. Tell me your experience when you had to add that second line or add more equipment for one customer and you didn't have enough customers to really make that pay off, but you hoped you would. Describe that journey for me.
Yeah. So, we weren't at a stage where we had 3 shifts. 24 hours a day with, so we really were working with one shift in, that first surface mount line. So when we got jobs that were our capacity, I just stayed all ran it. So I stayed from when they left to when they got there in the morning and just keep running the jobs to make sure the lines kept running. Would I recommend other people do that? No, but that was the way we grew our business and the way that we managed the cash flow, because it didn't cost me anything more to stay all night and do that. I had to get it done. So until we got to a point in a way that we could actually buy more equipment, that's just kind of what we did. If you were.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. How much of your business success is Chad and Allison, and how much of it is luck, percentage-wise?
I think that there is a fair amount of luck in what we do. But luck is also increased by the amount of hard work and dedication that you put into an endeavor. People will ask me, I want to start my own business. What should I consider? What should I be prepared to do? And I always tell people, be prepared to work your butt off, because if you're not prepared to work your butt off and fund it yourself, then you may not make it, So it really is luck of your own making, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a good explanation. I think it always involves some degree of luck, but luck alone is just a night in Vegas, right? There's not a lot of skill, betting in roulette. Everyone has a strategy, but it's really comes down to luck at the end of the day, and luck will always run out. So I think that skill combined with luck is the right combination. What did you?
Can I add?
Yeah.
So I think in the beginning, luck played a big part in stuff. We had to go out and find that first customer. That's lucky, right? We had to go out and find this equipment that broke and actually bank on I can fix it, right? So that's luck. But once we got going, and once we defined what we wanted to be, rather than just taking everything that we could possibly find, right? There's a certain stage in your business early on that I don't care what it is. I got to shovel the back of a trailer out. Cool, I'll do that. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. We'll take any job. But once we get going and we define who we are, what we want to be, and the direction of the company, I think that luck kind of fades and more, me and Allison shine together as yin and yang.
Oh, so many questions now just came to mind. I want to make sure I don't forget them. You talk about early days, you just want to get a customer, right? And I understand that. We did the same thing. Any sale is a good sale, even if you don't make money on it. Any sale is a good sale. At some point, you get to a corporate maturity where you start to choose your customer just as much as your customer starts to choose you. So from your perspective, who is your perfect, not company name, but what type of customer is the perfect customer for out-of-the-box manufacturing? What are you looking for when you shop for customers, other than the ability to to pay? There's got to be something behind just the profit margin that you would make on a customer. What is the ideal customer for you guys?
We actually went through a core customer exercise, and we have two business development managers that really focus on. One focuses on quick turns and prototypes, and the other focuses on small to medium volume sales. So each of those groups developed a customer persona, if you will. So for small to medium volume manufacturers, OEMs, we are looking for someone who has a product that they want to keep stateside. They want to be close to their CM so that they can come over and work out assembly issues or supply chain issues or work out tests, or maybe we're going to do their NPIs for them and help build up to volume. Conversely, in the quick turn and prototype side of things, we're looking for people that they've got a complex project that they need help moving quickly. And so we will bring a lot of solutions and technical expertise to the table to help make sure that happens.
As well as supply chain.
As well as what?
Supply chain.
Right, exactly. Contract manufacturing is not a commodity business, yet some people treat it as such, right? They just think that's a contract manufacturer on every corner. I know here in Southern California, there quite literally is a Starbucks on every corner and a contract manufacturer on every other corner. How does Out of the Box separate itself from the others? And there are a number of companies that do what you do. How do you stand out? How do you become, as I said on the last podcast, you've seen those stock images of like a bunch of white ping pong balls with a red one in the middle, the one that stands out. How do you become that red ping pong ball? How do you stand out from other manufacturers? If I called 10 CMs up and then I talked to you guys, what vibe would I get from you that would cause me to go, these guys are different?
Yeah, I think there's two things. First is service. We have decided that we want to be the Nordstroms of customer service in CM. The next thing is technical expertise. So our salespeople are extremely knowledgeable in really how things work at a CM, and they can they can answer questions about part fit and placement and quality, and they know the ISO standards inside and out, and they know how to put together a CFC and all kinds of good stuff that maybe in other organizations salespeople don't necessarily have the ability to do.
You said something very interesting. You said you wanted to be the Nordstrom. I talked about this on the last episode. When the economy went bad, two business groups survived. Two types of business groups actually thrived. One was the very low end, the Amazon type, Walmart type, that spent billions building an infrastructure so they could run on a 3% profit margin successfully. And the other was the high end. Everyone in the middle just couldn't differentiate themselves. They died. And they just, there was just not enough oxygen in the water, and many fish died, to use that analogy. So it sounds like you're not in this business for the low end, cheap, beat any price, work your fingers to the bone thing, which many are. There are many, not just contract manufacturers, but there are many people in our industry and any other industry that just think that the way to success is to discount. And the old saying is, I lose money on every order, but I'll make it up in volume. Right? So, and I think that's a little bit of a seduction for new business. We did that. We wanted to be, we thought we were the high price leader, but when ego gets involved and you want to get that order, and most importantly, you don't want them to get that order, you just you do what you can, and sometimes that's kind of selling your soul, selling your profit, selling your future, your children's future, by reducing your price to the point where you can't make any money. Was that a transition for you, or did you just start off with that kind of higher mindset to know that there's no future in losing money?
Well, in the first couple, 2-3 years, like you said, you take any job. It doesn't matter if it makes money. It's I've got an employee sitting here that can build it, and they don't finish it, I'll stay late and do it, right? But once, we developed, we don't want to be the cheap on the block. We want to provide a higher level of service. We don't want to be the most expensive either. We want to think out of the box, find creative ways to do the processes, do them cheaper, do them faster, so we can provide a higher level of service at the same price.
Yeah, excellent. And you started off that way. You didn't have to learn that you started off taking any order you can, because that primes the pipeline, right? That's the starter fluid down the carburetor, basically. But you can't run on that forever. What skills do you possess today, after all these years of running out of the box, that you didn't possess before when you started the business?
Me personally, I was an engineer, so I didn't know anything about the balance sheets, like you said. I didn't know anything about EBITDA. I didn't know anything about debt income ratios. I didn't, payroll, that kind of stuff. How do I pay my employees? And QuickBooks, what? How do I run this thing again? Put it in income versus expense versus, Who
knew that? Allison, did you bring that to the table?
Oh, heck no.
No. So you were very typical entrepreneurs who knew how to write checks and deposit checks, and someone told you whether you were making or losing money. That's probably the beginning of it, right?
I had to get QuickBooks installed. Once I got QuickBooks installed, I started learning the program. We did have an accountant that we worked with that kind of educated me a little bit on that. So I was watching that pretty good from the beginning and learning what all this stuff meant. Because I had to be the guy that learned the accounting side to grow a business.
Yeah, someone once told me, and I didn't take their advice, or their advice didn't make any sense until much later in my experience, is know your numbers, crawl through your numbers. And someone told me once, crawl through your chart of accounts. That's where you'll find things, particularly if you're trying to save money and you're trying to, eke out a little bit more profit to keep the bank happy, whatever. When you look at the chart of accounts, you really see how much you're spending in every category. And when we did that, when we started going through our chart of accounts, we found that our accountant was stealing, and eventually went to jail for that. But I think that's kind of a negative example, but it's accurate example of what happens when you're so laser focused on surviving and building your business. You don't see the small details. And, I think that's a lesson for every business owner, particularly a new business owner, is know your numbers like your children, right? Just crawl through them, maybe every night before you go to bed, if you don't want to sleep, crawl through those numbers and just be intimately familiar with them, because, that's your platelet count. That's how many units of blood you have in your veins. I mean, that's what keeps the business going. And so many entrepreneurs are so busy running their business that they're working in their business, not on their business. So when did you realize, assuming you have, I assume you have because you've been around quite some time, you've beat the 10-year statistics of 75% of all businesses fail within 10 years, according to the National Bureau of Labor Statistics. So you've beat that. And that doesn't happen just by luck. Luck would run out, as we talked about earlier. Did you get to the point where you started working on rather than in your business? And tell me how was that an aha moment, or did you always start off that way, or did you follow the same path as everyone else where you kind of learned that you need to work on at least as much as you work in your business?
I was actually going to mention that as the thing that I learned over the last 10 years or 12 years. I did not start out knowing that. And I think, like we said, Chad was really the brains behind the business for the first several years. And especially for him, making that transition from being the guy that knows how to build every assembly that comes through the door to the guy that's going to teach everybody else how to know every assembly that comes through the door. That's a huge learning curve. And for myself as well, recognizing that my job wasn't necessarily to hold everyone up and keep plates spinning, but was to figure out how to empower everyone else that was holding plates. That was certainly, and is still something that I'm learning.
When we started investing in the company, right? So after we stop taking every job and we define who we want to be, that's when we realized that we needed to invest in the company. We needed to start, growing the company and diving deeper into it. And one of our Impact Washington, she told me personally, you need to stop being the quarterback and start being the coach, alluding to what Allison said. So that's when I had to transition from doing everything, staying all night, running all the equipment, to training people to do that and start, learning the finances and growing the business from what we wanted to see.
Yeah, I think you otherwise hit up that, what's it called, Peter principle, where your business can only grow to the amount of hours you have in a day and the amount of talent you have as a single person. It's like a restaurant with two tables. They can't do $1 million a year on two tables. They can only do so much, and you can only raise your prices so much. At some point, you have to get more tables and to accommodate more customers. And in your case, you need more you need more Chads and more Allisons to grow the business. It can't all be you. And I used to do the same thing. I would sell by day, build by night. I would go in on a Monday and not come home till Wednesday night, and then crash for 6 hours and then back again for another 2 or 3 days. I mean, you just do what you have to do, right? But you can't sustain that. That's like first gear in a car. It's high rev. It's high revolutions. Everything's just shaking. It's going so fast, and it gets you off the line. But you can't sustain that. You blow up the transmission. And
there's a point in time too where I'm an engineer, right? And now this company is X size, and I don't know how to be a CEO. I don't know how to grow the business further. What am I doing, right? So we actually went out and got an executive coach to kind of help us guide us through our goals, our mission, what we wanted to do, our core customer value, a whole bunch of stuff that we went through that really kind of see the vision of where we wanted to take the company rather than just having the company take us wherever it went.
I did the same thing. I joined a CEO peer group called Vistage, and I'm not with them anymore, but I really value that experience because I was around every month we met. There was 8 or 10, CEOs, company owners, founders, CEOs, and the first thing you want to do is look at each other and lie to each other about how well you're doing, and then you realize you can't that charade doesn't last too long because there's pride and ego and all that involved. And then eventually it gets real. And there's nothing more humbling than a bunch of other CEOs crawling through your books, telling you what you're doing wrong and what you could do better. I mean, that is a hard experience, and you're paying for that hard experience. Was your journey with your CEO coach similar, or did you have other CEOs around you, or was it more one-on-one?
It was one-on-one. It's an executive coach. So he was talking to me and Allison.
Okay.
We never got to his full plan of getting all of our managers in place and getting them all through certain programs and stuff like that. But it really helped me and Allison be a sounding. You doing the right thing? Should we be going this way? What should we be looking at? I mean, I'm looking at the balance sheet. There's numbers.
Hey, they're black. They're not red, right? That's a good sign.
The bottom one says I'm making money, so I'm good, right?
Yeah, that's funny. I remember the first time someone walked me through this, and it's so elementary. It's almost embarrassing to say that it was even an aha moment. It was the concept of discounts. If we gave a 10% discount, that was about 106% of our profit. So, if we give a 10% discount, we have to sell other machines at a lot more money just to make up for that. And people just didn't realize that. And in our industry, particularly the pick and place side of our industry, the way they sell, I don't like the way they sell. The way they sell is they have the price, and then there's the price. And that could be a 50% difference. And there's one particular brand that was known for that. They'd say the machine is $300,000, but if you order today, we'll put it in your factory for $150,000. You don't have to pay for it for a year. It was very used car-ish. And unfortunately, that got out to, it got set into the mentality of buyers. They would go look at other types of equipment, like cleaners, like we make, and they would go, well, yeah, we know that that's not really the price. And we're like, no, that's the price. And then, no, because I got a $200,000 discount on my Juki machine or whatever. And it's like, well, that's not us. There's no money in there for that. But that was always kind of a re-education. We had to re-educate the customer that, yeah, some businesses do that. Let's start the conversation over. Our $100,000 machine is really $200,000. Would you like a 50% discount? I mean, we could play that game, right? So you have a local magazine. Where is it? The Seattle Business Magazine wrote about you, and they actually gave you an award about you were Manufacturing Executives of the Year for small businesses, and they described you two as the next generation of manufacturing leadership. What did they see in your company that set you apart from other manufacturers? Because I assume it's not just contract manufacturers in our industry; it was manufacturers in general. So, what did they see in you guys?
I think one of the things that's a little bit different about us is that we really participate in the manufacturing community and in workforce development in ways that other manufacturing organizations might not. And that really came from the difficulty in recruiting talent at an early stage. We decided we were going to network, we were going to participate, and we were going to be out there all the time. Myself and our sales managers, we just go all the time. We participate in everything. The more we know and the more we mingle and the more we network, it just makes us a more valuable member of the manufacturing community. And as a contract manufacturer, we're not an OEM. We're not building a finished product. We are somewhere in the middle of somebody else's product. So we really want to participate and add value at a high level throughout the manufacturing process for OEMs. So if we know how to connect people with design help and PCB fab and, how to find alts for their parts and where to go for potting and plastics and, all of these other things, we can provide a much higher level of service.
Excellent.
And I think for me and Allison, really yin and yang too. Allison's really outgoing. She loves going to all those things, talking to all those people and everything else. I like my machines, my process, and everything else. So if somebody comes to me and says, here's a part, I don't know how to build it. Well, let me look at it, and I can maybe help you figure out how to manufacture it. So I'm kind of the more hands-on, the engineering type, that type, and she's more the outgoing, networking, all that kind of type. And we really yin and yang really good there.
Yeah, that does work out well because if both of you were like Allison, no one would be there to solve the problems, right? And if both of you were like Chad, no one would be there to
No one knows who we are.
Asking
engage
questions.
customers and jump on all those SMTA meetings I've seen you on and things like
Right.
that. So, Allison, there are, in my opinion, way not enough women in our industry. What do you think is the cause of that? Is this a male do guys hire guys? Is that part of the problem? Are there not enough women coming up in, certain engineering experiences? Is that part of the problem? And how do we fix it?
That's a big question, right? And
I
there's
know.
probably different answers to that question. I think that from a technical side of things, even myself, in middle school and high school, I would be one of those girls that said, I hate math. I'm not a math person, let me go be in the leadership program because I'd much rather make friends and talk to people. I'd much rather write a paper than do a math problem. Whereas, Chad and other guys were better suited for math. So I think we have to do a really good job in elementary school, middle school, and high school of encouraging girls to participate in math and science. A huge source of pride. Chad and I, our oldest is 10 now, but when she was in third grade, she went to the science fair and she built a circuit. And we were just so excited. In fact, okay, so like I said, not a technical person. Mom helped build a circuit with our, 8-year-old at the time. Little battery and an LED on a piece of felt with some conductive thread. And then Dad came home and said, hey, you want to put a switch in it? And they dug through the toy box and they found a toy that didn't work anymore. And they salvaged a switch. And then, he and her put a switch on the circuit. So I think that's a prime example. Supporting girls at an early age in those disciplines really helps give them a leg up. But I think also there's been an emergence of women's groups in the industry over the last couple of years. And I think that that's really empowering because I can say from experience, if I had $1 for every time I walked into a room and I was the only woman there,
Right.
So women in general too, and our male allies, we need to lift each other up and empower each other and make sure that we're shining the light on other people that deserve to have the light shined on them.
Excellent. I do see changes. I see two changes in our industry. One is what we refer to as the Silver Tsunami. The old folks, the older wise sages are all retiring, and that's finally allowing younger people to come into our industry and move up. And I'm seeing more and more women in our industry. It's still way lopsided, way more lopsided than it should be, in my opinion. I consider myself quite a feminist. I only have one child. She's a 36-year-old mother of two now, to our grandchildren. And I've always, taught her, or at least tried from a dad standpoint to, don't you dare wait for that phone to ring. Don't sit home waiting for that phone to ring. If you want to go out with someone, pick up the phone and call. And now she's to the point, it just rolls her eyes. She goes, Dad, come on. She'll call me Gloria Steinem sometimes. Stop talking, Gloria. But I do think that there are not enough, still not enough women in our industry. But I do see light at the, coming through the tunnel. And I'm seeing more and more younger people, which we need as well, and more and more women coming in. So when I do go to a technical conference, I do see women on the stages, which I would never see before. I mean, not just one or two that never see before. So it's good to see that. And I know that SMTA has, women's groups that meet every month. I try and crash that party once in a while. And it's good to see that networking going on. And I do agree, no matter what group you're in, whether it's young professional male or female or veterans, whatever it is, that there has to be this empowering motive behind it. They need to help lift each other up, not step on each other's hands as they go up the ladder. So I think that's good. Last couple of questions, and then we'll wrap this up. Knowing everything you know today, would you still start this business all these years in?
No way.
That's the answer that I would love to hear from everybody, but I know it's not true.
If you had like 2 years in, that probably would have been the answer. But
sure.
Now I'm proud of what we've done. I'm proud of where we're at. I'm proud of our employees and our team who we've allowed to grow. And
yeah, it's funny. Everyone says that they go, heck no, there's no way I'm going to do this. But we all know you would do it again, and it's in your blood. And you're unhireable now. No one will hire you because once you work for yourself, you become very bad employees because you just don't put up with any BS, right? Because you're used to being in control, and I think I don't have the stomach for politics, office politics. I would get fired within a few days the moment I question something, and they'd show me the door. So I think we all become unhireable. What advice would you give? This will be our last question. What advice would you give to the next Allison and Chad that are going to start a business, any business, not just in our industry, but in general? What advice would you give them, knowing everything you know now, knowing everything you thought you knew, and now everything you do know? What advice would you give to the next budding entrepreneur?
It's going to be a lot of work. It's going to be a lot of hours. It's going to be a lot of stress and everything else to get it off the ground. But if you can survive the first 3 years and really hone in on your niche and your market and what you want the company to be rather than what the environment wants you to be, and that's your passion, then you'll succeed. But it's not something you can just do half-heartedly.
Right.
Go big, go home, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And find people that are smarter than you and hire them, and culture is such an important part of a good, cohesive team. Finding people that care about the vision and the mission as much as you do. And for husband and wife teams, don't step on each other's toes. What Chad had said, and I've said as well, we aren't good at the same things. And I let Chad be good at the things that he's good at, and I don't mess in his sandbox, and he lets me be good at the things that I'm good at, and he doesn't give me grief about it either. So, there's a real key to that.
A lot of trust required there.
Leave it at work. Go home. Turn it off.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to ask you. Yeah. I said this was my last question, but now that you've said that, I have to cheat a little bit. Don't bring work home with you, I think is what you'd said during a little break we had. You keep work at work and you keep home at home. That's a skill set that one has to learn. And I learned that the hard way because, I'm always thinking about work. And even when I'm not talking about it, it's always going on. So that definitely a skill set that needs to be acquired. Otherwise there's no safe zone, right? You need your safe space, which is your home and your family. Did that come naturally? Was that like an agreement you guys made? Like, we're going to do this, but here are the ground rules. We're not going to bring this home. Or did that finally just get, booted out of home conversation?
I was trying to do that before I even owned my business, coming home from other jobs and stuff like that, leaving my job, my stress or whatever at work, and just completely turning that off and being focused at home. But it's never 100%, right? I mean, we still have conversations. We had conversations last night over the dinner table about, certain things at work. But for the most part, just leave work at work and just have family time to be family time.
Especially if it's something that you don't agree on. I would much rather disagree about work stuff at work than at the dinner table or, on a weekend when we're supposed to be spending family time together. So if you recognize that there's a difference between saying, hey, what'd you think about that phone call today? And, trying to really power through a disagreement at home. I think that's what you've got to separate.
And when you do have a disagreement at work, leave it at work. Go home. You're still family. husband and wife. You can't bring that drama back home. You can't do it. You can't do it. Pick that fight
is
up.
why you guys are a successful married business owners. That is why. I think that is the key right there. Two keys. You trust each other. You stay out of each other's sandbox, as you said. You trust that the other person knows what they're doing and don't meddle with it. And you don't bring that stuff home. You leave it at the office. I think those are the two takeaways right there for me. We discovered the same thing, but we discovered it the hard way, right? We didn't just start off with like, hey, here's the rule. This. No, it was, we realized that something has to give, either the marriage or the business. And I love both, and we can't, and it works out well to have both, but yeah, you got to come up with those ground rules, and either up front, if you're really super smart, or eventually, because there's no other choice, which was my case. Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you two. Thank you so much. You've shed a lot of light. You've answered a lot of questions for me, and I appreciate that. Anything you want our viewers to know about out-of-the-box manufacturing that hasn't been said? Like, we can provide your contact information. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that'd be great. Visit us at obmfg.com. Email questions to sales@obmfg.com. Check us out on LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook, all that kind of good stuff. And thanks especially to you, Mike, for having us on. It was a lot of fun to be able to talk about our business and also hear from you. And I'm really looking forward to learning a few things from your other guests as well.
Yeah, I think it'll be very insightful. Well, thanks for being our second guest on the show. We've doubled our episodes today. Next time we'll increase them by 30%, and then it's smaller numbers there. But thank you for being part of this. I really appreciate it, and I was eager to talk to you two. And I know we've had this on the books for quite some time. The only challenge in interviewing entrepreneurs is that they have booked up calendars, which is a good sign, right? So I guess if an entrepreneur said, yeah, I'll talk to you tomorrow, that probably maybe the less successful because they're not so busy. So I'm glad that you found the time, and thank you for being my guest today. I really appreciate it. And I don't need to wish you luck. You already have it and skill. But again, I wish you all the best moving forward with your business.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Well, that's a wrap. Thanks for being part of episode number 2 of the Concept to Creation podcast. And a special thanks to my guests today, Allison and Chad Budvarson of Out of the Box Manufacturing. They're located in Renton, Washington. If you're listening to the audio version of this podcast, be sure and hit the subscribe button so you'll be notified of new episodes. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and virtually wherever you get your podcasts. We also have this available as a video version if you're watching this on our Concept to Creation YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. There's a subscribe button down there somewhere. Be sure and hit the subscribe button, and also click the bell icon. That will send you notifications every time we drop a new episode. New episodes will be released on the first and third Tuesday of each month. And my email address is down here. If you'd like to send me comments or questions or episode suggestions, please do so. My email address is mike@mikeconrad.com. That's Conrad with a K. Thanks again for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and of course, stay happy. And we'll see you again very soon.